Good morning, Unicorn fam. Are you excited for tribes? Well, I am. And here to sate your curiosity is LG Zayori hitting us up with a tribes playtest. So make sure you're tuned in to Screen That Zayori sharing. We'll also have CEO and co-founder Aaron Beyerschmidt answering questions after the demo. Let's have at it.
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Exciting day. It's sort of a town hall. It's like a half town hall. We are going to do some questions at the end, but today it's really focused on this 3.1 update. We're going to talk about tribes. We're going to show off some of the artwork and some of the flows for tribes. We're going to get to see Gemworks for the first time, and we are going to talk about the glue factory a little bit. So we'll take some questions at the end. We've got Aaron with us today. I'm going to be driving, and he's going to be in the co-pilot position. So the old switcheroo here today. Excited to take the baton. Aaron, how are we this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. This Tribes release has been a long time coming, and it really tees up the entirety of the Elder game for us in terms of the core land gameplay in our ecosystem. And so, yeah, I'm pumped to kind of do this reveal and then obviously answer questions about what we plan after this and how we're going to take this kind of first step you're showcasing here and transition it into, the next few major features all the way out through Arena Team RPG. So yeah, I'm pumped.
Absolutely.
And yeah, kind of fun to get the co-pilot for once. So
yeah, you get to sit
just
back
put me in
and
as needed, coach.
sit back and
Exactly.
enjoy. Totally. So just a couple of quick
Well,
disclaimers.
Fight Flood and Serious is really what I'm going to be doing. So.
Couple of quick disclaimers, though. Today we are going to be looking at a live build that exists on the testnet. So if you see any transactions that are a little bit slow or things that are wonky, just remember that we're on Mumbai. It's a testnet. Sometimes things are a little bit different than production. So just keep that in the back of your mind. As with all live demos, we may have some moments where we've got to wait for some transactions to go through, and that's going to be part of the fun. As Aaron said, this is a really important release because we've got vertical progression coming for the first time, but also this sets the stage for 3.2, then eventually 4.0 and 4.5 patches. We talked about them in the last town hall. If you missed that big roadmap reveal for 2024, definitely go back and check that out because this is the first step, the foundation to unlock match 3 and the really active gameplay getting added into the core loop. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. So we're going to start with land because there are a couple small things that will add up to be big things that I want to show off here. So I got my cute little testnet plot, a couple of these unicorns. The first thing, we've got some new indicators, and these are simple but very effective. When you've got a quest that's complete, now you get that little red marker up there, and you can see, oh, it's a weekly that's done. Oh, how convenient for me. I got my loot box. Very cool. Going to be the same thing over on the events board here. As you can see, oh, we got a notification in stories, got a notification in objectives. I've got this quest done. Let's bring this baby back home so that he can craft some gems for us. You might have also noticed the color difference as well as the UI upgrade. Very simple, but Aaron, I feel like we just took a step into the future with these little panels now.
Yeah, for sure. As we've made the scene more busy, we need to obviously frame elements like that. And then, there's a host of performance improvements under the hood here as well. The client team continues to take feedback from players and, find better ways to optimize the game.
Absolutely. And one of the much awaited features, we've heard you loud and clear, loot boxes. Now you're going to be able to open these a little bit more easily. So you can just click the max button and it'll open as many as you have. You can also type in a number. I have a bunch, so I'm not going to hit the max button, but you can do 15, and there you go. All those loot boxes in one fell swoop. Now, they're still separated by categories, so you are still going to have to go through for your different classes, your different jousting tiers, and all that, but this is going to be a great improvement for all of you farmers and grinders out there that are accruing gift boxes and loot boxes alike. Amazing. Simple, but a really important time saver. Okay, before we jump over to the actual Tribes Launchpad, one last thing I want to show that's accessible here through Core Game, the new Player Profile tab. This is one I've been excited about. I think when I started a year ago, this was something that I told Aaron, we got to get names in the game. I don't want to see my wallet address. I want to show off my cool name like Zayori. And now you can do that. You can set a username. It will be a blockchain transactions to update the usernames. This is actually stored on chain, which is pretty cool. And you'll be able to select a profile image as well as an island avatar. This is based on land that you own. So on the testnet, I have a bunch of these plots, but you'll be able to select the beacon, which land plot are you most proud of to kind of show off, and select from these profile images. These are predefined. I like the rainbow poop, but you can choose your type. Are you a lion? Are you a heart? Maybe you're a diamond. Aaron's definitely a donut. So something for everyone.
100%.
All right, cool. So simple stuff, but very exciting additions to the basic core gameplay. Let's jump in to Tribes itself. All right. I'm going to take a moment to digest this here. So this is an already formed tribe, all right? We didn't want to waste time going through the full flow. We wanted to have something set up so that you guys could see what it looks like. Once you're kind of up and operational, it also allows us to craft some higher tier stuff and just overall have a more robust demo here. So this is what it looks like. You've got your new shared land plot here. This is the town hall in the middle. This little guy over here is the Gemworks, which is something you'll be spending a lot of time in, I'm sure. And then all of these plots around it are your tribe members, and these are reflective of their individual name choices, the plots they selected, as well as those avatars that we were talking about. And obviously you can still access that player profile when you're on the tribes menu as well. So when you start a new tribe for the first time, this is a screenshot of what it looks like. I pulled this from a fresh wallet. You'll have the option to view tribes if you want to join one, or you'll have the option to take the helm and become a unicorn leader. It'll cost you 500 of these T3 resources, but you will be the one in charge of your tribe. If you click View Tribes, you get this pretty standard breakdown of all of the tribes that exist. They can be public or private. So if you're the tribe leader, you can decide, okay, I want anyone to join. Okay, I only want to invite my friends. But you'll be able to see the basic information. How many members do they have? What level is their town hall? What's the name? That kind of thing. One other note, when you create your tribe, you'll be presented with a randomly generated name, but you'll be able to re-roll that name as many times as you want before you lock it in. The catch, well, there's no back button. So if you get rid of a name, you might never get to see it again. But when you lock in your tribe name, it will be unique and no one else can take it. So, and once it's locked in, it's there. There's no rerolls afterwards. So tribe names are going to be interesting. Very curious to see what kind of creative names people can manage to find in the RNG machine. I think the profile name does have a 12-character limit as well, so no long names, no links or anything like that, but cool that you can start to see this identity on the plot. All right, let's dive into the town hall itself. So I'm the leader of this tribe, so I have slightly different options here. I have the ability to decide if we want to make it public or private. You can tag it if, hey, we're farmers, hey, we're crafters, maybe we're the breed boys, maybe we like jousting. You can tag your tribe so that people can find it. You can enter a description, Sayori rules, see you for life. People can learn a little bit more about you, and you can also select a region. Optional, of course, but if you're looking to meet other folks that might speak your language or share your culture, there you go. Here we've got the list of members. Again, I'm the chief, so since I'm the chief, I have the ability to move people around. The elders are kind of like that officer or veteran type tier, and then the guardians are the ones below that. Obviously, you can kick people. You can transfer ownership as the guild leader, or the tribe leader, rather. You can also invite people up here. If your tribe is set to private, drop in the wallet address and you can find your friends. And maybe most important, here is the Town Hall inventory. So here's a sneak peek of some of the new resources that are going to be craftable in the workshop. And tribe members will be able to contribute these. In this tribe that we've created, you can see there's 46,000 of these spellbound spy holes, 45,000 of the lustrous latches. And you'll be using these items to upgrade the town hall, and they'll also be useful in some of the future parts of tribes. So we talked about watchtowers, we talked about armaments, those various things that'll be coming in 3.2 and beyond. This is where your tribe contributions will come from. Now, a quick note, you can't take stuff out. That's okay because you're going to end up consuming it, if not now, at some point in the future. But just be careful when you decide to contribute to that tribe. It is a commitment. Once those resources are in, they are in the tribe bank until they're consumed. Aaron, anything about the town hall that you want to throw in? Anything I missed there?
No, you covered it pretty much. I mean, generally, this is the focal point of your tribe. And ultimately, it's going to be the primary progression point. When we move to tribe v tribe warfare, the town hall is ultimately the thing that you're racing to destroy when you're matched against another tribe, right? So getting a head start on getting that upgraded in kind of this first initial version, and then beginning to build both defensive and offensive structures with the 3.2 release, which will be the next release, is going to be really important. And the good news is you have plenty of time, I think, to really kind of plan out a strategy between your tribe mates on this front. But yeah, the town hall is the focal point of this feature. Ultimately, it gates progression of the other buildings, and you're going to want to have this leveled up as much as possible so you can put as many defensive units around it as possible and keep it safe.
Yes.
In the face of upcoming warfare.
Absolutely. And tribes, I had a makeshift graphic for it, and I forgot to bring it up here. So I'm forgetting what the max number of tribe members is at the moment, but you increase the amount of tribe members as you level up the town hall. So it starts relatively conservative, I think around 10 or something like that. And as you level it up, you can bring more people in with a max cap. That is, it's below 50, the max cap, but
36, yeah.
36
is the current max cap. Obviously, we'll shift that over time. We currently set it there given the clan system that we had. We're obviously trying to get as many, active and engaged tribes as possible versus just a few concentrated tribal monopolies, and obviously looking towards things that we've seen work very well in mobile free-to-play kind of Forex strategy guilds, which usually top out at 50, and it's likely over time will increase as we get more player liquidity.
Gotcha. As we mentioned, upgrade the town hall. These are the shared resources, so 4,000 to get to level 8 of each, and we've loaded this one up with quite a bit for our testing here. One quick note on your individual little plot here. If you click View Lands, that'll take you back to your land so that you can edit stuff. If you update your player profile, these will change immediately, and if anyone else in the tribe is looking, they'll be able to see those changes. Now I'm the queen bee. I've got this different land. Take note that if you update your name, it will take a moment for that to update for everyone to see. It's because it's on chain. Aaron has spent many a time lamenting about the reorgs on Polygon. This is part of it. So I just signed a transaction I don't think you guys can see too easily, but keep that in mind. It takes some confirmations. It'll update immediately for you, but your friends will take a minute to see it. So bear that in mind before we switch over to Zai. That's just the kind of stuff we got to deal with here. Okay, well, let's hop into the Gemworks. This is super exciting. This is the big meat of it here. Vertical progression for the first time for unicorns. So it looks somewhat similar to the workshop, but we've got a couple of extra buttons here. You get these extra Gemworks slots as you level up the Gemworks. As you can see here, unlock this level 6, level 7, level 9. These are individual slots. So it's not like these are shared across the tribe. Everyone in the tribe gets however many slots are unlocked. So everyone would be able to craft 4 gems at the same time, in theory. First step, we're going to need to buy a codex. There's 3 tiers. We've got common, rare, and then there's a mythic tier as well that unlocks, I think, at level 8 when you get the Gemworks up a little bit higher. Kind of similar to the Shadowforge recipes. These codexes are the blueprint for the gem that you're going to create, and it is a little bit of a dice roll. Let's go ahead and buy a rare one right now. See what we get. So all gems have a range. These codices the codices have a range, and then the gem that you get will be somewhere in between. So 15 to 105 extra to resistance, and then possible bonus of 1% to 3% on top. This particular codex has 12 charges. So we can go ahead and just craft it straight from that menu. Obviously, we'll need a unicorn here. So let's select old Colonel DD should do the trick. These new items here are mostly things that are going to be crafted in the workshop. These shield shells and the resilient rocks. You might recognize Rift Crystals from the last Twilight Tactics, Shadow Forge, Shadowcorn event. And of course, the Unicorn Souls. These are from the unicorns, the guides that were lost in battle. And as we'll see later in this demo, the glue factory is going to be coming out where you'll be able to send your unicorns for slaughter and get back these valuable unicorn souls. Note that not all codices require unicorn souls. That starts at tier 3 and higher. This is a tier 3 codice, so there we are. So we'll go ahead and craft. It's going to take 35 seconds, so we'll see what we get. But you can see the tick went down from 12 charges now to 11. So we'll have this ability to keep rolling this codex until it's empty. And who knows? Maybe we'll get really lucky and get one that's closer to plus 100 plus resistance, or maybe we'll get really unlucky and roll a couple that are plus 15. So there's a little bit of that. I call it the Herodric Cube vibe for any old Diablo 2 players. There's that crafting element where you know to some degree what you're going to get. You know what stat you're rolling for. You know what you're trying to do to increase your unicorn. But you don't necessarily know if you're going to get a really good one. So here we go. We got plus 27 and a plus 1 resistance. Just okay. Not the best dice roll. But we've got more charges, and we can try again. You can also switch to different codices, right? We can see the different tiers. If we look at a tier 1, it's just a simple plus 5, plus 15, no percentage bonuses. If you look at a tier 2, it's a plus 15 to plus 50, and then a chance for that 0 to 1, or I guess really a chance for 1%. Can take a look here. This is the basic codex cost. Commons, range of getting a relatively rare chance to hit a tier 3. Fairly common chance to hit a tier 1. Rares are a little more expensive. Range from a tier 3 to a tier 5. And the mythics will range from tier 4 to tier 6 and be even more expensive. The pages you'll start to unlock just by doing tasks on the farm. Farming, gathering, questing, all of these things, you'll start getting codex pages as part of that, and you'll use those resources to be able to buy and then craft these codices. All right, so we've got some gems now. Let's take a look here. Okay, this is the one that we made. So your next step is deciding whether or not you want to mint it. These start as off-chain, and let's say you got a really bad roll. You know, maybe we took the time to craft a couple of these. We could even craft another one. I'm going to be a little bit mindful of my unicorn's energy here because I only have a couple on the Tesla, but we can throw DD back in there. This one's not too good, but maybe you say, hey, you know what? I need a gem. I don't have any yet. Let's go ahead and mint that. So I'll get my transaction going. And the reason it needs to be on chain, of course, is that your unicorn is on chain. So this is actually changing the data of your unicorn when we decide to equip this newly minted gem onto a unicorn. And it might seem a little cumbersome for these extra steps, but this is super key because we are truly entering this realm of dynamic NFTs. And a lot of games talk about that, but this is another one of these things where we're pretty ahead of the curve. We've been running experiments with dynamic NFTs for over a year, coming up on 2 years now, and this is kind of furthering down on that spectrum. So in this case, it's worth it to be on chain, right? Because now it's actually attached to your unicorn.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a funny thing. It's been a trend more recently to start to talk about dynamic NFTs, and credit to LG Rob and LG Andy and many others. Like, we've had them from day one. So it is kind of exciting to see everyone else wake up to that specific trend. And I was actually going to call out, like, this is us waiting on Mumbai here, right? Waiting for 30 confirmations. I cannot wait until Psy. We're talking 120 millisecond block times. You know, the performance gains that we are going to get with this shift are really going to be amazing.
Yes,
can't wait.
Absolutely. This will be a very fluid experience. So, you know, step by step. But It's also important that we get this stuff out before the Xi migration so we don't delay the roadmap, and so that when we deploy and this whole new audience is suddenly like, oh, I'm finally going to start playing crypto unicorns now that you're in my neighborhood, we want this to be ready. We want it to be there. We want them to be excited about making vertical progression. So is important that we continue building simultaneously, right? Deploying new product and developing design while also working on the back end of the migration. So, all right, we've got a couple of gems now. Let's go ahead and take a peek at equipping these bad boys. So we've got old Vertigo Charity here. Sad looking corn. Let's see if we can cheer up this candy a little bit. So you'll click Edit Gems once you're on this screen. And this is a unicorn that's been fully bred out. So we've got all of the gem slots available. If we go back here and look at Cromulent Gypsy, only 2 slots. So you'll unlock those as you breed your unicorns out. So those older unicorns that have a lot of children will have more opportunity to power up. So we'll click Edit Gem, take a look here, and all right, we got plus 52. Not as bad for a tier 3. This Thwarting Juice Gem, still a pretty rough roll. Let's go ahead and just add both of these tier 3s here. So this is like a whole edit screen. You know, you can decide, let's add a whole bunch, let's add only one. You've got some options here. If you want to remove them, like I'm trying to do, you click Reset, read what's in front of you, and use the tools at your disposal. So let's add these 2. We'll add a tier 1 and a tier 3. Let's go ahead and save gem. Getting another blockchain transaction here. Of course, you can't see it with the screen capture. But you can see he's now undergoing his transformation as those gems get equipped. And in the meantime, we can come back over here, maybe decide to craft another codex. Maybe we want to experiment with something a little bit lower energy, right? Want to save our precious unicorn souls. Let's let Cromulent Gypsy have a go. Maybe craft something here. So a lot of depth here in the different tiers, the different kind of roles that you can have, and you know, the ability to customize exactly what you need for your different unicorns. Really excited about unicorn souls as well. One of the things I can't get out of my head is how few that we have. I think there's like 1,100 unicorn souls, something like that. As the tier goes up for gems, so does the amount of unicorn souls required. So we'll have all of that exact data posted in the What's New in CU a couple days before the release, like Monday or Tuesday next week. But when you get to the mythic tier and we're talking tier 5, tier 6 gems, I mean, we're burning 3 to 4 unicorn souls per gem. So again, it doesn't take a lot of big players that want to really max out a couple of key corns with really good gems for unicorn souls to start getting pretty scarce. So just really excited about the little supply chain in our loop that opens up there. That's been on my brain a lot recently, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, this is closing the economic loop, right? I mean, I'm the chief product officer here, and so I kind of own the success we've had and obviously some of the failures that we've had. And so one of the things looking back on it, the rush to get to market, the launch of an MVP, makes a lot of sense in something like a Web 2 environment. In Web 3, when you have an open economy, players have extremely high agency inside that economy. It really put the team in a position where we were racing to add features that would add economic balance to the system. And, you know, in some ways that's been hard to manage. And so now with this release, we're finally getting both vertical progression for the corns that you care about, that you want to keep around. You've got a way to burn and destroy the donkeys, but actually have them feed the progression of the unicorns that you care about. And now we finally have a counterbalance to unicorn supply inflation, right? The best breeders can continue trying to hunt for the rest of the legendary mythics, continuing to move the stat lines upwards. But now there's a way for every single person, every single day, to progress a corn within their, within their herd. And this just adds a lot of economic depth, which with past releases, we've added more economic depth to the overall system. But this is really the strongest lever we've put in that acts as a balancing mechanism. And that's very, very, very exciting. And we can kind of tweak and tune this over time. And it really speaks to the thing that we're trying to reinforce, which is crypto unicorns, unlike many projects in the space, created a system where constant progression is really necessary. And it's my belief, it's my thesis that that is the only way to truly build economic sustainability into a system. And whales either pay the grinders to keep their progression or stay up and stay at the top, or they come in after a lot of progression has occurred and they buy that effort from other players. That is how you build a working economic system in which certain players kind of specialize. And I think at times that's gotten muddied where, people thought, I just thought I could specialize by selling one type of berry, right? It's like, no, we really want people to specialize in things that are deep, things that are complex. The people who have been top breeders have been enormously rewarded to date, right? And the opportunity now is, hey, I've got a corn that's like sort of good at jousting. Now you have a way to progress them. So by next weekend, they're better than they were the weekend before. And again, we've never had that. And that progression is tied to deflationary mechanisms, right? Not just for in-game assets and items, but actual core NFTs, the unicorns themselves. So I think it's going to be a huge step forward. And then you combine that with the Xi migration and the influx of players that we expect with that migration. And now you've got something that really begins to make the flywheel spin. I know I'm grandstanding, Andrew. I'll give the mic back. One last point is just on Unim. Like, I've said this so many times, there is less unicorn milk in circulating supply today than is needed to evolve the current set of babies. So the more demand on that, obviously unicorn milk price should be positively affected. And at some point we can begin increasing the source of unicorn milk, right? And that is ultimately the kind of balancing act that we're going to have to pull off over the course of this year. But it's very important to put constraint around the supply of these assets, as well as bring new demand for them. And we've always been in an environment where the economy is not growing. It's very static. It's been in a stasis, and that is hard to manage. That's hard to balance. It's resulted in a lot of tightening measures. The opposite is true in a high growth environment. And so that's really what we're hoping for here. And, it's my belief that we're really lining up the right dominoes to create a cascade.
Absolutely. The only two things I would add to that are with the 3.1 jousting, overhaul, make jousting great again, whatever you want to call it. It will be a series of tuning updates to really perfect it and get jousting into the ultra sweet spot we want it to be. But at the end of the day, if that is mostly a reward for, top total stats unicorns and making that climb, there is now a kind of progression path in these different breakpoints where gems could make the difference, especially at the high levels. We do want to be a little careful of power creep, and we do anticipate it'll take people a while to get to that. Hey, I've got a unicorn with 8 tier 6 gems maxing it out. We don't want that to happen overnight. So there is some gated progression here for sure, but it's all relative, right? So hopefully getting this jousting loop straightened out will also be a key catalyst in driving the value here. And if the cost to evolve a baby that you want to burn is lower than the floor price of unicorn souls, and unicorn souls are kind of liquid because people are buying them, I'm not that smart, but I think that's what they call a free arbitrage opportunity. So it just starts to get fascinating to think about our economy having these mechanisms in place that start to provide incentives to close those gaps. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's what gets us steps closer to being more of this kind of autonomous thing that can self-regulate, at least parts of it. So pretty cool. Very, very exciting. We've been talking about this update for years now, it feels like. Tribes has been very much long awaited. But here we go. So I just wanted to highlight here, you can see your unicorns when you're looking at equipping. You can see this 0 here. That shows that there's no gems on Cromulent Gypsy or Colonel DD. Skyward Waffles has 1, and Vertigo Charity has 2. Those were the 2 that we had gone ahead and put on earlier. Now, another key element here, you can upgrade these gems. You can't take them out, right? These are stuck. But if you go, I think I want to put a new gem here, you can hit the old replace button and then upgrade that tier 1 to a tier 2. Maybe you want to do that in one transaction. Go, you know what? Let's also I'm going to put another tier 3 on this guy. I like this unicorn. As LG Jeff just noted, you can do all the changes, and then it gets submitted in one transaction. So hopefully that will ease some of the pain of gem management, and it's not like one transaction per change. We were mindful to try to make it more dynamic than that. So in this nature too, gems are inherently a bit deflationary. You can't equip them, but you can replace them, effectively burning the one that was equipped in its place before. So positive element there, I think. That's not going to get rid of all of the unwanted gems, but it should hopefully encourage folks like Jeff mentioned to throw those common gems that you sort of feel like you got for free just on some worker corns. As the difficulty increases, as shadow corns power up, you're going to want those base corns to slowly start climbing. So we're cautiously optimistic that tier 1 and tier 2 gems will still have a place in the ecosystem, even if there is some surplus. But as always, right, that's something we're going to look at. We're going to manage and consider if those numbers need adjustment. Okay. I think that is the core flow for Gemworks. I think we've kind of seen it all. We don't necessarily need to wait for that blockchain transaction to finish, but you get your codices, you craft your gems, you decide which ones to mint, and you throw them on your unicorns. I'll tease some more materials here. Again, in the What's New in CU, we'll have all these numbers of exact costs for the workshop and all that stuff. I know you guys love to dig into the data. Today, we just wanted to give the broad strokes, kind of demo and show off what it looks like, and get you guys excited for this release that is, like, seriously right around the corner. Just seeing this screen right here is like, damn, dude, look at my buds. This is a step towards more social engagement in game, and I'm all about it, Aaron.
Exactly. I mean, it is a major next step forward, and we have seen historically in mobile free-to-play that these systems and harnesses drive extremely long-term engagement retention. And I think we've observed certainly that, people are willing to team up in Discord and fight tooth and nail in Discord. And this is kind of the first step in really getting all of that out of Discord and into the social sandbox that we've been building for quite some time. So yeah, again, this is very much the first layer of the tribe system, and the next steps begin building us towards tribe v tribe PvP and warfare, all the way out to Team RPG Arena PvP. So yeah, I can't wait to take this next major step next week, and happy to answer any questions the community has, having seen this wonderful demo. Thank you, Zior.
Absolutely. And so 2 more things I just want to show very quickly. These are pretty simple, but this is the Glue Factory, the Dark Sacrifice, Burn Unicorns, more beautiful artwork. You can see the plants have that, I don't know what this is called, but it's like layered, so they move with your mouse and make it feel like the Dark Forest is a little bit alive. You'll be able to sacrifice your unicorns here. This is the altar. Brave unicorns. You'll be able to select unicorns there, burn them, and get souls back in return. So nothing too wild. It's very straightforward. Unicorn, get soul, but it's here. It's coming. It'll be there with 3.1. Lastly, we have a new leaderboard. This is really exciting. This is kind of like a choose your own adventure style overhaul. This is something that our product and design team has been conceptualizing and working on for a little while. Much more advanced. Lets you kind of choose your path. And we're thinking that this will be very useful for this Xi migration as a way to start seeding more of those Xi token rewards. We had talked about floating a number, so maybe I'll leave that to Aaron to decide if we want to mention specific numbers. But I think this is a key catalyst in trying to get people more excited and visualize better the reward structure of getting into these leaderboard events.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil the surprise there. That'll be coming out, but we are putting a reasonably significant amount of Xi rewards here as kind of the chase prize. It's the beginning of, again, having other tokens. We hope over time at Xi, it's things like Arbitrum, given the opportunity to get both direct grants now that we're migrating to their wonderful ecosystem, coupled with obviously Xi seeking grants and going to be distributing Arbitrum or ARB grants to builders on top of Xi. And then it's currently the plan to move to the Camelot DEX, which is a Uniswap fork DEX on Arbitrum that has a pretty unique LP reward system, which will include both Grail, their governance token, as well as ARB. Camelot was kind of in the top 10 recipients in terms of protocol dApps that received ARB grants for the prior kind of STEMIs. So yes, I mean, this is the first major step that we're taking towards leveraging other ecosystem tokens that in this case, and for now, currently have a lot more liquidity than us as kind of the chase and the prize there. So again, combining this with the vertical progression, combining it with the social features that we're bringing into this. And the hope here is that we see people form guilds and begin to automatically recruit people into the guilds. And naturally, as we have seen, help people over the early hump of how you get started in this game. Foundationally, I believe in that kind of onboarding versus the more traditional hook you by the nose and drag you through a bunch of clicks to quote unquote learn how a game works. And so again, I think it's all about lining up the dominoes, and I think this is lining them up in a way that can really maximize the success, both of this launch as well as kind of the migration.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. So let's dive into some questions. I know there's been a lot of chatter and people seem quite excited for all this collaborative gameplay. You know, the clan leaderboard experiment that we did definitely made it loud and clear. You guys love to work with and against each other. So very excited about the beginning of this social warfare.
Yeah, if clans was high school, then tribes is the big leagues, man. So absolutely, I feel like our players will take the lessons that they learned from clans and apply it towards tribes. And as for choosing your own adventure, I'm pretty sure some people who weren't really into the idea of clans are going to be so excited to play Team No Team, hashtag solo YOLO. Who thought up of that? That's funny.
I think that credit goes to LG Jared, who has joined us on the product side of the organization more recently. So yeah, I'm super stoked about this leaderboard, and kind of it's going to be very interesting. You have a path that benefits your tribe a little bit more, and obviously their collective ranking on the leaderboard, which, as you see the prize pool on that side, I think is going to be very interesting for most players. But then there's also solo YOLO, which is kind of like, I prefer getting some of these direct rewards myself. And so it's going to be a very interesting experiment to see how much social pressure kind of gets levied, or if people generally just decide to solo YOLO. So we're very excited about this. Our leaderboard harness needed a refresh, and underneath this, we've got a lot of flexibility to kind of modify and tweak and tune it based on player feedback and community feedback on this first version of this new event.
It's huge.
Absolutely.
I love it.
We already have a couple members of the community being crazy, coming up with funny puns. We have Terrorect saying, "Communists, this is our time." Crazy. Okay, let's have the questions. I have collected some questions over here. From Degen Illis, there's a question from earlier. When we mentioned the gems, the reward for the 3k stat unicorn won't be counted if somebody went above 3000k stats via gems. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Correct. That is yeah. Go ahead, Andrew.
Breeding incentive for sure. So the gems are additive on top of that. The percentages on top of that. You can almost think of it like counting mythic parts in jousting. There's the base stats, and then we have an additional like multiplier that gets factored in that equation for the application. So 100%. When we're talking about those breeding incentives, it is base stats. Gems are a layer on top.
All right. Next up, we have The Truth. This is slightly off topic, but let's see. He's saying, can we potentially have more QOL on gameplay for farming in the form of minimizing clicks or time spent farming or crafting for leaderboard events? I get that there definitely have been some improvements. Shout out to MFGA. But in terms of crafting times, it really makes sense to offer an option to craft less times and make a bulk crafting available to reduce clicks and coming back every 12 minutes. How do you guys feel about that?
I saw that comment and I thought about it. I definitely had to batching would be kind of nice in certain moments. And I have had those moments anecdotally where I do 2 or 3 and I intend to do 5, but just kind of forget because the timer is, not synced with my real life. And I would gladly pay a little bit extra, get a little bit less efficiency to be able to say, hey, just batch them together. Let me craft 6 at one time. I'll pay the tax. Anecdotally, that crosses my gut check. So I'd be curious to hear Aaron's thoughts.
With 3.1 next week, the truth, we are giving you kind of like, it basically remembers what you're attempting to craft. And so you're not having to go in and like select and select and select. If you're like trying to breeze through a bunch of crafts, it certainly is reducing clicks by 60%, right? So that flow is about to get more friendly. I will say we're constantly thinking about ways, and I appreciate that you recognize that we have reduced click grind, so we're constantly looking at ways to improve that. We're going to see how, like, for example, with totems in 3.2, totems are actually, once you socket an artifact into a totem, they actually begin just producing tribe resources passively up till a threshold, and it needs to get claimed. And that's going to be a very interesting system to see. And if players universally like that better, despite the improvements that we're going to layer in 3.1 and 3.2, we can continue applying more quote unquote automation to the game itself. It's a balancing act. We want to sink unicorn energy. We want a reason for players to have like a lot of corns. I don't think we'll ever want players having thousands of corns, right? I'm not sure that's the direction that we want to head, especially with the counterbalances of burning unicorns to get souls to feed high tier gems. So again, we're not default resistant to it at all. We are thinking about ways to make it a lot quicker. I threw out an idea yesterday, just to give you a very specific example, which is just simply like, hey, once I have an item socketed into a workshop, just go ahead and give me the next unicorn in the current filter set that I have, right? And if you've set that correctly to be sort by, lowest energy necessary to fulfill this action, like, again, it's now remembering the item that you want to craft, and you only need to go in and select a new one when you actually want to change that. So it drastically removes the clicks, and then again, choose your unicorn could really get easy. I think the problem is the players are very specific around how they go about it, what they're optimizing for, and what they're looking for, and it changes. Am I questing? Am I in the workshop, etc.? And so, to me, just pulling in the unicorn in the top left based on your current filter settings is a good way to do that. So yes, we are constantly looking at ways to kind of remove that, and we recognize that with the tribes features, we're layering on more complexity and more things to do. And I don't want people caught up in the grind. I want people spending more time making these more strategic decisions. And so, to sum it up, we continue to look at ways to improve that. We plan to continue to improve it in lockstep with each of these new releases. I think by the time Team RPG launches, and now you're doing kind of this, you're literally going to war and, on the match 3 grind and stuff, at that point, we've built a true game in the sense of there is a core little battle loop inside of it, right? And we want time and attention and energy going to the strategy of that, how you're going to go about taking on another tribe based on their defensive positioning versus your offensive positioning and defensive positioning. And over the course of that battle, things are going to be fucking intense, right? If they make a play early for your town hall, you might have to scramble to try and get theirs first. And so we're really looking at ways, again, to layer in strategic depth, which I think leads to fun. There's only so long you can keep this kind of infinite farm progression sim, quote unquote, fun. And I think one of the things I certainly recognize as a daily player of this game since before it even launched, we do want to actively reduce that. So I got on my soapbox. I apologize there, but it's a good point. It's something that I want to call out, that we recognize we're putting more things to do on top of a thing that already takes time. And we do want to try to reduce time spent managing the individual systems inside your farm.
Well said.
Well said. All right. So for other people who want to ask questions, please feel free to do so. You can leave them on our thread on the feedback channel, or you can just message them here on the town hall chat. So let's move towards the next question. So Yolis had a short conversation with Jeff on chat, which was basically asking if we have a um recycling option for unwanted gems, and Jeff said the TLDR was not right now. So I guess what Aeolus would be interested in is what are the signs that we'd be looking for to see if the players are already ready for that kind of system.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how often gems are getting consumed. You know, do players say, I'm not going to waste my tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 gems and just hold out until we get further? Are people going to decide that the really cheap, common ones are like, hey, let's just throw them in there and who cares? We'll burn them and replace them later. We've made some assumptions. It'll be interesting to see how our assumptions match up to reality with that kind of usage. I think similarly, do we start to see a huge surplus of tier 1, tier 2 gems? Maybe there are some interesting breakpoints where, we don't see a surplus in tier 2, but we see a big surplus in tier 3 because everyone's hanging out, hiding or holding out rather for tier 4. Patterns like that in the data totally might emerge. So it is a little bit hard to say at this point. Like, I don't know that we have an exact marker of if this happens, we will then, create this burning mechanism. But gems are pretty flexible in that regard. At some point, we could relatively easy be like, cool, combine these 2 gems and they move up a tier. Or combine 3 gems and they move up a tier and give you another dice roll. Like something like that could be a relatively easy addition to the easy in air quotes. Over the course of a year roadmap, right? That's something that if people really like that concept, we could start to talk about slotting in. In the future, there's also potential for either special gems, like special event gems, or even another tier of gems or something. We've talked about, and people have suggested specialization gems. Maybe one that, hey, this one gives me an extra bonus only in jousting, or this one gives me an extra bonus only in farming or only in gathering, and having these like archetype kind of gems that you would then put on your master gatherer, something like that. These are all just high-level ideas that we've certainly gathered in the feedback and thought about what's the expansion for gems. If we're at step 1 right now, there could be 5 steps down the road that really blow the lid off this thing. So got to get the ground floor right. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the usage looks like and see if we have a huge surplus of gems, and we'll make some decisions as that data comes in.
Absolutely agree. So Garen raised a fair point. So sort of like the counterpart to gems right now would be the Shadowcorn rituals, and there does seem to be like the Shadowcorn rituals are different and they mint random every time. This is to encourage people to trade and to talk with other Shadowcorn holders. But there are some people that prefer to just not trade at all. Do you think the same system would apply for rituals as well?
Yes, I think
Possible.
so. If I'm understanding it right, I think so. Nice potential
Yeah, it's possible.
there.
Yeah. Not sure I have a strong opinion on that, though.
Ooh.
Yeah,
interesting. I will think about it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think stuff like that is great feedback. With big features like this, there are always additions, things that can be made. So, great thought. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely worth thinking about. And community, if you want to keep developing an idea, we can definitely do that. Head over to feedback.cryptounicorns.fun, submit your idea, and then we can hash it out in the comments. Because sometimes the community suggests something and we don't get it exactly 100% what the community had in mind. So more communication is better in this case.
Well, and I
Let's
see
move on.
Bajas has a good point. I just want to jump to this question real quick. How do we avoid it turning into rituals? And they are fundamentally different, right? Gems are kind of this... They're on like layer 0, right? Unicorns and land are the core pillar of our ecosystem that everything else is built on, right? The NFTs. And these gems fundamentally improve the base stats to the unicorns that exist on that kind of base layer that everything else is built on. So not trying to take anything away from rituals. They've been a great use case and example of a framework that people will engage with. But gems are almost like higher order, right? This is they will have an impact on virtually every part of the core gameplay loop, future Twilight tactics. Like, how many times has Aaron said, like, breed with stats in mind? Total stats are going to increasingly matter more and more over time. You know, the Shadowcorn difficulty isn't static, right? There will be times when that will probably get harder to compensate for unicorns getting stronger all the time, that kind of stuff. So it's just different. Not to say that we don't have any potential risk for extra things just sitting on the blockchain and needing to find a way to burn them or use them or recycle them. But I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Aaron. I hope I didn't step in it there, but I think it's a little apples and oranges comparing gems to codices to rituals 1-to-1.
Yeah, I mean, LG Rob is being somewhat sarcastic, but also true. I mean, y'all can just burn them, yourselves. And if the concern is, oh my God, we're gonna have a bunch of wasted gems, like, it's very easy over time for us to add features that say, all right, here's a kind of quote unquote recycler, right? Is that happening with the release next week? No, right? And again, I think oftentimes these are great pieces of feedback. I always, as product lead here, as chief product officer, as the, Wizard of Oz coming up with, some of the stupid vision things that have brought us here. I will always release the thing in sort of an MVP, right? We layer on top of it. We've been doing that throughout the process. So I optimize for getting something to market. Illis is over here like super, super concerned about this whole, idea that a bunch of gems are going to fill up. My advice is focus on the highest tier, right? And don't necessarily go after the lower end kind of codices and stuff. Now, the best players who want to fully optimize are going to want to take the lower tier gems and equip them to the donkeys and the farm corns and all that kind of stuff. And over time, we can further incentivize that. So again, I'm not opposed to it, but it's a problem that occurs over time. It's not a problem day one.
Right.
So I think we've got time to kind of course correct it. So it's a good point. It's something that we will continue thinking about. And there's several things that I think we can put in place that rectify that. So.
Yeah, and the benefit of having a customized solution for how we watch the situation progress is that we can also, at the same time, handle anything that pops up unexpectedly from this situation. So definitely glad that we're forward thinking that way. Let's have another question. So Bonzaboo has a straightforward question. So where's my advantage for a lower stat corn to make progress if existing stronger corns will still make the same progress? The meta is still going to be strong breeding, and I can never meet an absolute breeding monster with gems. The gap will not change with gems if we both have gems. Or did I miss something?
Yes, the key variable that you're not quite factoring in, I think, is time, and that you can't just snap your fingers. Even if you have $1 million that you want to inject right now into crypto unicorns, you can't just snap your fingers and buy a full set of tier 6 gems. So there's this constant back and forth of progression as your tribe unlocks higher Gemworks. You have access to different tier gems, and it's all relative, right? So it depends on where you are on the spectrum of your unicorns versus everyone else and what you're trying to do, right? If you don't joust at all, then you're probably not too worried about edging out an advantage over, the other guy who's beating you at your bracket in jousting. But if you're a newer player and your unicorns are like not at 100% against the Shadowcorn attacks, then there's an obvious gap there that you're going to want to try to close and fill and make progression that way. So maybe Aaron has more color to add on that, but I think that the time element of progression and relativity to these other loops is what makes that it's not equilibrium. So that's where everyone's chasing for, is it short-term gains versus long-term gains, cost, value, investment. Harder to calculate just 1-to-1 because it has to do with different preferences and different game loops.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is just, we've had this generative economy from day one. I'm very proud of the Mythic system because I wanted a system that rewarded people that were going to get into breeding and not necessarily just reward whales who showed up years ago and happened to buy a Mythic, right? And in some ways, I think we're seeing the fruits of that as we, get our first legendary out the door and people begin to pursue the other classes. So, breeding is this tentpole feature that, credit to LG Jeff, he made a system deep enough and complex enough that you really can look at where are we going to be 5, 6, 7 years from now? And we're already coming up on 2 years into a system, right? And so again, when you talk about trying to build a game that survives for a long time, you need a system like this. So Gyms is not designed to make breeding irrelevant. What it is designed is to try to counterbalance some of the negatives that we have with the generative economy and this chase inside of the breeding mechanism to try and get higher stat corns, better genes, the top tier mythics, etc. You get a bunch of donkeys out of that process, and that has certainly been a problem. Now those donkeys have utility beyond just being farm corns, where you're burning them to produce souls to put into the gems, right? So you can take a mid-tier, upper stat corn and put gems on them and beat the best bred corns. But it's not about taking a donkey, or even a mid-tier and getting it all the way up there. Now, of course, gems is a lever. It is tunable. We can adjust over time the band of stats that gems can roll, and we will over time as things progress, right? And that comes back to the point I made earlier, where we're creating an infinite progression engine that benefits the players who engage, the players who stick around, and the players who continue to commit over time, right? That is foundationally the system that we've kind of built here. And now you're going to see us begin to naturally raise shadow corn attack over time, right? As the shadow corns continue to grow in strength, now you need higher stat unicorns, so burn the donkeys and get more gems for the ones that you're keeping around, right? We want to simultaneously constrain the unicorn supply while giving you this ability to kind of progress. So it is very much a balancing act. It's one that we, at least I am confident in our ability to tweak and tune that over time. And the beauty of this is we could see communities put forward proposals for specific types of gems that can get approved and launched later.
Right.
So there's a lot of really interesting stuff that we can do now that this system exists.
Yeah. We're step by step with jousting, but I remain cautiously optimistic. We've got it on the right path, and over the next couple months, jousting is going to make this kind of transformation, and hopefully we'll see more players engaging with it to soak up some of those RBW rewards. But it could get really interesting if that loops gets more traction, and we see some creative ideas of different gems that could be really fun to spice up jousting. It could get pretty granular, like a gem that makes you a recovery artist, or it really increases your chance to knock down, or sky's the limit. It really is a lot of gray area there. So excited to continue progressing and get waves of feedback. Big stuff ahead. Okay, more questions, Spark.
For sure. And it's very, it's very important to understand, 3.2, we get more tribe buildings, the foundry, the ability to begin progressing your totems and your watchtowers and creating armaments and artifacts for them. Then 4.0 launches, and all of a sudden you're building war machines to defend your tribe. You're obviously engaging in tribe warfare, tribal warfare. And you're going into these matches with your set of, unicorns. So you need to be building out a deck that's going to allow you to take on various situations. You can't really predict what other tribes are going to have per se. And so it's going to benefit you to have a wide deck of unicorns that are equipped and ready for combat, right? And then the combination of that coupled with your own skill on the gym board is really going to be what causes your tribe to win or lose over time, right? And so there's some really interesting stuff that are coming. People need to understand, even beyond jousting, which we're taking this massive step forward with the refactor of the algorithm based on community feedback, based on the wonderful tool Venticello built. And so that's a great step forward, but you need to be thinking about way more than even jousting at this point as you begin to strategize on how you're going to go about vertical progression on your herd.
And I see Eolus is asking about, do I need to worry about hitting this kind of limit of diminishing returns where, one stat isn't going to be as useful, or maybe this unicorn's over a threshold, or should I focus on just improving weaker stats or even weaker unicorns? And I don't think that's for us to say. You know, that's part of the strategy that is going to vary based on who you are, what assets you have, where you are on the spectrum. And again, this is very exciting and setting the stage for 3.2. And as we get a little bit closer to that launch, you'll probably get a little more clarity on, you know, what some of those breakpoints could feel like. But there's a little bit of mystery right now in that question. And we're excited to see what the players do. You know, like I said, we always try to make assumptions, and very often your behavior is not the same as that assumption. So we're excited, as always.
Absolutely. Yeah, happens in video games all the time. Okay, so we do have a lot of questions here. Let's have one last question, and then we can answer the rest via chat. Okay, so here's the final one from Augusta. Are we going to see a golden ticket marketplace soon?
I can answer that. That'll be post-migration. You know, the web team is putting the polish on the custom marketplace currently. Then they're going to move over. We're actually taking over the staking website front end from the Vault Inc. team, so it can be more integrated into our UI. It's kind of long been a sore spot in terms of experience. It certainly functions, but I'm not happy with the state of its with how it represents our brand, and I guess I'll leave it at that. So they're going to work on that, and then post that effort, the custom marketplace is on the roadmap. So it is there, it is tangible, it is coming post migration.
All right, so you heard that, chat. Our questions about the golden ticket marketplace have been answered. I'm looking forward to it as much as you have. So yeah, there's a lot to take in. I hope y'all are very excited for Tribes coming out. Are we allowed to say when it's coming out?
That's a good question.
LG Rob's here, so let's just keep it tight. Next week is my understanding, having seen the QA report today. So expect the formal announcement with what's new in CU.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'll take a small moment to soapbox and just say it is a real balancing act. I understand why everyone really likes dates, and when we're a week out, it feels relatively safe. I guess I would just say, meet us halfway, community. We've struggled to find that balance of we don't want to have to say, hey, here's a date, and then, oh, we delayed it, because it creates this impression like it's fucked up somehow, and that's seldom the case. It's often just like, oh, we caught a new bug, and we just don't want to ship it with this bug because we know you're going to be upset about it. So it's really just comes down to quality of life stuff most of the time, and nothing nefarious. But at the same time, understand that it's advantageous to say, hey, guys, get ready, because next week it's going to be awesome, you know, and release the information in a little bit more of a drip like we did with Make Farming Great Again. So just wanted to say, bear with us. We're trying to be more liberal in giving you guys dates and those timelines around releases, but we're scared. There's a little scar tissue there. You guys are pretty mean when we do delay stuff. So just, that's why we're saying next week, most likely, with that little bit of timidness in our voice, because I don't like getting pummeled at work. But yes, it is like, this is really soon. We're not thinking like end of Q1 or anything like that. Tribes is like seriously around the corner, and it's going to be a big step forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait to see kind of everybody tribe up and start to share screenshots and stuff of their, LD3s and things. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to kind of turning over the next chapter here. And again, it sets a massive foundation for the next few releases, and obviously, everything both pre and post migration. So exciting times ahead. More to come next week.
More to come next week. Let's cap this off with a community code. Collateral says, gems is what is needed to make this a solid game platform. And then we go on to even cooler things. Great work! I hope you're listening, everybody at Team LG. Great work. Yes! This concludes our Tribes playtest and Q&A. As for other questions in the thread, we will answer them later via chat. We'll post a recording of this on our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. And don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. Get them hyped for Tribes! If you have more burning questions, reach out to the Ask LG Team channel. This has been Sparkle Unicorn, hosting co-founder and CEO Aaron and Zayori. Good morning, good night, and see you in game, Unicorn fam. Ooh.
Ooh woo.
Ooh. See y'all.
Bye bye.
See y'all.